Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the US Challenger Series number 14, day 1 out of 3. I'm Met, joined by Pulse, and we're on to game number 2 in the picks and bans between Super Hot Crew and Ex-GamingGear.eu. If you did just miss the first game, it went fairly comfortably in the end after a snowballing victory to Ex-GamingGear.eu, but it was a bit shaky to the start of that game for them though, Pulse.
Yeah, there was that one small slip when they went for the fight around blue buff, and then it was just Ex-GamingGear coming into their own, getting that teamfight composition where it needed to be, and essentially it was the next 2 minutes of them just going straight down the mid lane and then winning the game. That was essentially it. They knew they could teamfight, knew they could win every fight they went for, and then it just went into their hands. But Jov and Vi are at least going to be banned out. Vi was not banned out in the first game, might be because they don't have the first pick this time, definitely could be a factor.
Yeah, Vi, as you know yourself, Pulse, as you main her, is a very strong jungler still, and definitely an understandable ban coming out. Sohn has been banned as well against Mixer, so a lot of respect coming out from Ex-GamingGear.eu. Do not want those flash crescendos anymore, and their last ban going to be the Shyvana.
Yeah, even though Ex-GamingGear won the last I was going to say team fight, but they won the game and most of the team fight, they still respect the flash crescendos, the amount of plays that Mixer made, and the amount of kind of introductions to each of those winning team fights from Super Hot Crew meant that they just have to ban Sona out. Shen will be banned along as we saw that in the first game as well, and waiting for the last one from Gaming Gear.
So, first pick is going to be Orianna, which last time around was banned out from the side of Super Hot Crew, I believe. I think it was their last ban or their second ban. Regardless though, it's going to be played this time around. And again, Aluna X is going for that Aatrox, and can definitely understand why. Pulse didn't necessarily have a blisteringly good early game, but in the team fights where it really counted, he was landing pixel perfect Dark Flight. So, and it is a very, very strong jungler overall.
Is very versatile in the early game, in the very, very early game as well, because last game we saw him go for that basically level 2 tower dive on the top lane, pick up the kill, hit his passive, and then they had a slight advantage from the tower. Again, it was a great play by Super Hot Crew to return that in the bot lane, but thus that versatility in the early game just to be as aggressive as you want to be, and then take people down whenever you want, is one of the biggest factors that makes Aatrox incredibly good. So we'll see what they do to flesh out the rest of this lineup.
Well, they've gone Deadly Brother on Corki again, and remember they did win the last game, so identical first 2 lock-ins, but if it ain't broke, why fix it? On the flip side, however, Super Hot Crew are going for a very much a different composition. Thresh and Renekton added to the Orianna, and indeed MBS Toll may be picking up the J, so a bit of deja vu coming in here, Pulse, from the side of Ex-GamingGear.eu.
Yeah, absolutely. Last game we saw the Renekton be banned out. Renekton in the top lane, a very solid pickup. He doesn't have too many bad matchups, and even in matchups that he has a difficult time, he can still farm his way out, he can still outplay them, he does a lot of damage, and not many people can stand toe-to-toe with him. Now, we do have the Thresh coming out, and it looks like we have a very strong ball delivery system. Thresh lands a hook, he follows through with the Lantern. Again, the ball could be on top of any number of these people. It looks to be a very strong team fight composition coming in from Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, and if this is going to be a Mazarin playing Gragas again, this will be the identical lineup to what we saw in game number 1 from Ex-GamingGear.eu. So, quite interesting. Gragas has not been banned out, is very much available, is regarded as being pretty good against Orianna, so it would not surprise me to see Gragas locked in again here. And indeed, he's hovering over it, Paul. So, looking like an identical composition to game number 1, and you can't really blame them for going for this. I mean, it just worked.
Yeah, it worked from both of the teams. It was just down to the decision making, the shot calling, and when they went for objectives and how the team fights went. It wasn't really anything to do with the compositions. There was no one character pick which was like, that didn't quite work. Even the Volibear I thought worked quite well. It was just because of the disengage that they had made it very difficult for that pick to work. They're going to go with the more conventional Renekton this time around, and as you said, the Gragas will be locked in. And this is kind of what we're expecting, Messers. We do expect to see a lot of Orianna Gragas. That seems to be the new staple mid lane.
Yeah, I would just like to know your thoughts though, Pulse, before we do delve into the delay and the commercial break here. Going Kha'Zix again. Now, I wouldn't say that he had a particularly bad game in number 1. He did nice ganks, he was playing nice, but are you kind of surprised to see him locking in this champion for the 2nd consecutive game, or would you prefer to see him running something a bit more orthodox in the jungle role?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's an assassin which Ku is really used to, but at the same time we know him for his incredibly good mechanics, and his mechanics really stem from his Lee Sin, those big playmaking junglers. Karzik can definitely do the same thing. He's definitely more of a carry jungler, but I'm surprised with Lee Sin being open that he hasn't picked it up. A little bit risky against some of the more stronger counter junglers nowadays, but even so, again, I'm surprised we don't see Ku in that role.
Yeah, alrighty then, ladies and gents. 2 minutes 30 on the delay are remaining right now, so we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and when you join us, we'll be live for game number 2 between Super Hot Crew and Ex-GamingGear.eu. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Darling, save the eyes from the
Hello, ladies and gents. It would not be a night of streaming without issues, and unfortunately, because we are not on the tournament client, we have a set amount of spectator slots, which is 2, and we have 3 of us that need them. So they forgot to turn on spectator mode, which means that your spectators and casters and such can follow through the friends list, and therefore I'm in the game with Ruben, who's our streamer, but Pulse is not able to spectate the game. So he is right now in the thick of asking them to remake, and apparently they are refusing to do so. So we're kind of stuck in this stalemate position where we're kind of trying to get them to remake so that we can all spec the game and have it all fluid and nice and cool and everything, but the teams aren't as keen. So yeah, any more news, Pulse, to update us with? Have you got any further with this situation?
Not really. One team is saying we're fine with remaking, the other team is saying, well, we had a slight early game advantage, and now they know what we're going to do with the early game, meaning that they have to change what they do, which is fair enough, but at the same time, there is roughly 1,000 people wanting to watch the game.
Yeah. So basically, the issue is that the team that does not, I'm not going to name names or anything, but the team that does not want to remake had an advantage early on, and they don't want to remake the game because, of course, then they lose that advantage, and it's going to be back to square one. So we're in this really strange position where one team is happy to remake, the other is not, and of course, we are getting later on into the evening. A lot of these players are from Central and Eastern Europe, for example, so they're kind of an hour or two ahead of us, and it's getting towards 12 midnight for them. So I can kind of understand to an extent why they have this issue, but it is told in the rules to both the teams, every team taking part, that spectators are to be enabled so that we can get into cast and bring you all of this glorious action. Regardless though, Pulse, I assume that we're still stuck on pause screen and have no idea what's happening.
They are back into the Champion Select, so they have come out and we will be remaking from what I glean. So we need everyone to get back in, basically. We need our streamer and we need you.
Good stuff. So kudos to both teams for doing that. It is getting on quite late, actually. It's 9:30 UK time, so I then kind of guess what the time is for them. But there we go. I can see the lobby. We'll be rejoining. Just waiting on you now, Ruben, and that'll be good to go. All the players are in. Click on spectate. You should be there. You go. Yeah, so some people in the chat, maybe we should just answer some questions now, Pulse, because obviously these guys have been waiting quite a while. Some people saying that, we host a tournament, therefore we should enforce the rules. Well, we will, but we don't want to have to stamp our foot down. We'd rather the teams kind of sort it amongst themselves. Obviously, if it was required, then we would jump in. But fortunately, both teams are okay with the remake. Remember that we are 3 minutes behind the live events because the delay will be kicking in. So these guys were already in the game, into the thick of the game, before we realised that it was not spectatable and before Pulse messaged them. So you can kind of understand in that way, Pulse, why they'd have a bit of an issue with remaking.
Yeah, it was kind of everybody's fault and no one's fault. We should have made sure that they had spectators enabled. They should have enabled spectators, but at the same time, you kind of expect it. It's kind of no one's problem when it comes down to it. But we shouldn't have any more issues. It's going to be slightly annoying for the team who had, obviously, a better early game, but they'll have to try something else. It's kind of just how it goes.
Yeah, they have gone for the same picks and bans as well, so it's going to be identical lock-ins here. If you did miss the first game, we've had a bit of an influx in viewership, so I'd assume that some of you aren't too sure of what's happened thus far. This is the US Challenger Series number 14, day 1 of 3 of first round. Best of 3 format between Super Hot Crew and Ex-GamingGear.eu, and the first game did go to Ex-GamingGear.eu, who interestingly enough had an identical composition to this one. So they're running Mazarin Gragas, NBS Lol Jace, Coralius on Fiddlesticks, Deadly Brother on Corky, and Aluna X on Aatrox. And it was quite a strange game, Pulse, because for large segments of the early game, they were looking fairly vulnerable and like they could actually lose the game. But as we said, that one big team fight around Blue Buff that got a triple kill for Mazarin and the Baron afterwards really turned that game on its head.
Yeah, it's a very versatile team composition that can do a lot. Actually, last game, we saw that they were behind. They went for a team fight, they won the team fight. And that was with them being behind. So no matter what stage in the game they have enough in their toolkit, they have enough disengage, enough re-engage, enough initiation, and damage regardless of how they do, that they can always come back into it. Ku is still going to go for the Kha'Zix. I messaged him, why not Lee Sin? And he said, I'm too lazy. Not really sure if that's the actual reason, but I would like to see Ku on one of his staple champions, but it's still something that definitely fits his playstyle.
Yeah, but it could also be another thing as well, Paul's, that he just wants to broaden his champion pool a bit, because everyone knows that his Lee Sin is phenomenally good, and he's probably towards the top of what is possible on Lee Sin. I mean, that's how good his mechanical play is. He's up there with the likes of Amazing and Shook on Lee Sin, and that's a pretty epic place to be. So it could just be a case that he's like, okay, my Lee Sin's really good, therefore I should probably branch out into more unconventional picks and a few more junglers that are going to keep my opposition on their toes. And he's picked a good team to go up against here to burst out the Kha'Zix, because remember that Ex-GamingGear.eu were at World Finals. They were playing some of the best teams in the world. Yes, they ended up getting knocked out, but that experience is going to prove to be invaluable for them, Pulse, coming into the likes of Challenger scene.
Yeah, for sure. If you're going to solidify your experience on the character, any team you're going to go up against is probably going to be Gaming Gear. So, Ku is really sharpening up his skills on some of these different champions. Me on the top lane. Again, another very solid matchup. Jace versus Renekton is very, very much skill-based. There's a lot of ways for Renekton to play around the Thundering Blow, which will make it very difficult for MBS Law really to start trading with him. He can start to bait out some of the cooldowns and then initiate at the right times, but I feel this is a slight advantage, at least in the first couple levels, to Renekton.
Yeah, but the whole composition combined here, Paul, so we didn't really have a chance to gloss over this in the first picks and ban stage, but which of these two comps do you see coming out ahead, or do you think it's similar to that first game where it was very much neck and neck throughout?
Based on picks alone, I really can't call it one team or another, because last time we were like, well, the assassin composition doing really well, they're snowballing ahead, this is kind of what we expect, they'll slightly grind them down and they'll win the game. Come back, massive team fight composition means that won't happen. However, now with both of these teams going for that type of composition, you really can't call it. It just comes down to how they execute the team fights and how they execute the rest of the game.
Alright, ladies and gents, if you have any questions, feel free to fire them away in the chat right now. We are going to have to wait on the loading screen, so it could very well be another minute or two before we're into this game. So if you have any questions for us to answer, we'll be happy to do so. We've done this time and time again, Paul, so
indeed,
it's going to be some more dead air to fill in here. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be live into the game very shortly.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we wanted to do, if we were going to fly out and actually get into the studio of Chaos TV, is the interlude, with the baking time with Bass, lasagna, all the wonderful foodstuffs that he can make. Really fantastic.
He's quite the chef, though. I hear he makes an awesome pizza and lasagna, spaghetti bolognese, so I'll have to try that out sometime. But somebody asking, who is your favourite champion, Pulse?
Pretty easy for me, it's Vi. Metas, who's yours?
No surprises there. In terms of just all-round awesomeness, Ziggs, I have to say. But I'm actually an AD carry main, so in terms of AD right now, it's probably Jinx. I just really enjoy playing Jinx.
Yeah, Jinx is a really cool champion, and I think it's just down to what Riot are doing with each new champion. They always do something cool with them, and well, Jinx had a kind of a massive entrance with the music video and everything else about her. Also, the fact that she's very strong right now. I mean, that's also a factor.
Indeed. She is definitely strong. Even with the previous nerfs that she had to the Zap gun, she's still extremely strong, Pulse. Just all around very good. I still feel that her passive is kind of on the OP side. In team fights, you get a kill or an assist, and suddenly you're just running around like Usain Bolt. Doesn't seem too fair to me.
Yeah, the clear potential from Jinx is a little crazy. I still feel her base damages are a little too high. Zapped scales up by 50 extra damage per level, which is fairly standard for a mage, not an AD carry, and then she has an execute. So her kit is very difficult to balance, but I think even with number balancing, it could kind of put it into the realms of balancing.
Yeah, for sure. But some more questions coming out here from the chat. Let's have a quick look. What will be your favourite game of today? I'm not too sure what you mean by that, because we're only casting one best of 3. So this one, I guess.
Yeah, this one. Out of the one game, this one. Best player on both teams.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I would say in terms of playmakers, I would say Ku and Mazarin, but each player brings their own thing to the team, so it's very difficult to place it. I think the easier thing would be to say who is the MVP, and then at the end of this match, we'd probably find that one out.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, let's change that question up a tiny bit, because this loading screen seems to be lasting forever. Who is the MVP in your eyes of game number 1 then, Pulse?
I can't think that far back, Metas.
Oh, man. We actually have a pause as soon as we get in, which is always awesome sauce. But I would actually probably go with Mazarin. I think his ults were sublime. He really did turn the tides of that fight on blue that we're talking about, which really was, for me, the fulcrum point of that first game. So, yeah, Mazarin for me in the first game. But we'll see. Going into the second game, which we are now on the Rift right now, Paul. So, game number 2 between Ex-GamingGear.eu and Super Hot Crew is actually underway now.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll see what they do in the early game. The Fresh is, well, generally you expect someone with a hook, the instant CC, to be able to go for those team fights fairly easily, or get at least a pick. Fresh is so good in these early game scenarios, especially when he's not against something like a Zyra, who has been moved away from the support role. What made her strong, yes, was the CC, the early game potential for the level 1 fight, but also the fact she had ridiculous base damages. However, they might be able to catch Migs around as he just wanders out. Ward will stay up, they weren't able to take that down, and GamingGear kind of wander back. Pings come down all over the board, and we could see some early game action.
It does look likely as Ko and Heidel alongside Sylar all in that bush. They're going to be jumping out onto MVS, who's taking a lot of damage, and that's going to be your first blood. The only downside though, Pulse, is that Mixer picked it up.
True, but the first kill on the support is not necessarily a bad thing. It will be invested into either an earlier Sightstone or extra wards, which will just increase their early game knowledge and then allow them to snowball over at least the bottom half of their board.
Yeah, there's some strange stuff going on in all chat, which I'm not really going to repeat. I'm not sure if Ruben has his all chat turned on or not, though. He doesn't, but there's a bit of flame going on, which is never nice to see, Pulse. Complaining about the remake and such. But let's just jump back into the game. As you say, obviously First Blood would have been much nicer, I'm sure, on the side of potentially, you know, CosQ or Heidal's Caitlyn. But as you say, though, it's not too bad. I mean, he's picked up a Dawn's Shield, so he's going to be really tanky in lane.
Yeah, that's a very interesting matchup, or pickup, sorry. He could have saved the gold and tried to head for an earlier Sightstone, trying to get that that ramp up in gold, and then he can just invest it. Instead, he's gone for the Darren's Shield so he can be even more aggressive in lane. Against Fiddlesticks, it's interesting because Fiddlestick's primary kind of source of damage will be, well, yes, it will be some of his auto attacks, but it will be mostly some of that magic damage. But at the same time, you have to be looking towards the AD carry. However, as they knew this was going to happen, swap up into the top lane, that will be Corki. Meanwhile, the invade came in, Keralis comes out, and Deli Brother heads on in. And who picked up the blue buff?
It was Elena X, so they managed to steal away that blue buff, and will be pulling himself back into his own jungle. So I was curious about this in the break, Pulse. I actually posed this question to you if you thought that they were going to go for the lane switch up again as they instigated in game number 1. And indeed they've gone for that. So it's going to be both Deadly Brothers Corki and Kralius' Fiddlesticks going up against Ceralia's Renekton. Now, what do you feel is going to come out ahead here? Jace or Renekton in this 1v2 lane switch up?
Jace will probably be able to clear the waves a little bit better than Renekton, at least for the first couple levels, especially when he gets the acceleration gate, but it won't matter if Ku kills him first. Ward has come down, so he should be able to back off, but he might be able to pick up the earlier turret. And now with Aatrox in the top jungle, he can countergank, go 2 versus 3, but he won't be able to harass down Renekton in the top lane, and if they walk past the turret, then they might just be able to zone him away and maybe take a turret, or take a large chunk out of it before they can really react.
And this is very reminiscent to me, Pulse, of NALCS at the beginning of Season 2, where we constantly saw these lane switch-ups and the jungle coming down for that potential first blood. They're landing the death sentence on NBS Law, looking to pick him up for the second consecutive death. And it will this time be Ko taking down that kill. Really nice start here from Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, and now GamingGear have to really make something happen in the top lane. They're gradually pushing this out. Fear comes down, lots of damage comes out, and the Ignite as well.
It's not looking good. I think he's going to be fine, though. Ignite's not going to claim his life just yet. But, Pulse, they still force him back. So that's going to leave Renekton very weak coming back to this top lane.
Yes, indeed. And it will do a decent chunk to the turret as well. And as the bottom tower will be falling to Super Hot Crew as they picked up the kill before onto the jungler, they should be able to pick this one up. And in response, we need to see something happen in the top lane. They don't have the creep wave, so that will hurt them at least for the short term. We'll see what they can do if they go for the lane swap ups.
Yep, that's a very quick first tower though, and actually transitioning into Dragon straight away, which is very reminiscent from the first game as well. Here comes MBS lol though, only level 2, so it's not going to be that scary, doing very little damage, negligible at best actually, and this Dragon is flying down right now. Kha'Zix coming in. Is the smite going to be enough with Renekton from the side? Yes, it will be. They pick up the Dragon, and they manage to pull themselves back. Now MBS lol's in a really precarious position. He has been stunned away. That's going to be another kill going into the hands of Super Hot Crew. 3-0 already, Pulse.
Yeah, and 0-3 MBS lol, he's not had a fun time at all in this game. 7 CS to his counterpart of actually 7 CS and Renekton, now 8 CS. So neither of the top lanes have had a good time, but 0-3 definitely is a lot worse. Kotzq finds himself Mazarin in the mid lane.
Yeah, explosive barrel not going to be taking any damage away from Kotzq, but the Ignite has been popped off from Mazarin, whereas Kotzq's Ignite's still on up here, Paul, so could potentially go for a gank in mid.
Could indeed. Mid is looking like the next point of contention, but Kotzq very low, out of mana. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Corrales not in good shape as Deadly Blood comes to his aid. Flash comes down, and he should be good to go as the Terrify comes out.
Yeah, Death Sentence was going to land until that flash was used. They're going to be going after again, slowed down from the Void Spice courtesy of Ko, instantly getting silence from the Dark Wind, but so much burst damage, and they're going to pick up their 4th consecutive kill. We're thinking about Lunarex. I don't think they're going to catch him.
Yeah, and they back on off. Great uses of the Lantern and then follow up with the rest of their toolkits. Now 4-0, massive snowballing coming in from Gaming Gear, really picking up the momentum after that, for Super Hot Crew after that first kill. And now they should be able to, continue with that momentum. First game, they were running that assassin composition, but now the greater teamfight potential means they'll never be behind even when they're ahead. Because as we saw before, if they did get into a teamfight, if they were locked into that scenario, they could still be taken down. But now they have the kills in the right places to keep up this advantage for the rest of the game.
Yeah, already a 2.6k goal differential into the hands of Super Hot Crew, who are bouncing back with a vengeance after that first game defeat that they suffered. So looking really good for them. Caitlyn's already picked up a BF sword, comparing that to the Phage from Corki. So a bit of a damage differential between them two, but Corki's going to be quite tanky. That being said, aforementioned Caitlyn will be pushing this top lane, and Jace is quite a bit away from this one.
Yeah, it's still going to be 1 versus 2, but they want another turret. However, with Kha'Zix coming into the bot lane, it should be enough to stymie this push, as Archax also considers coming into the bot lane. Ping comes down, looks like they're going to go for the buff transfer instead, and the top lane looks like it's going to fall very shortly. MBS lol really can't afford getting anywhere near the minions. Shock Blast for acceleration again, not enough to clear that one out.
Yeah, MBS lol only level 4. He can't afford to go anywhere near Hydeout and Mixer, who are both a level above him right now at 5. This tower is going to be falling, so that's going to be a 2-for-0 trade in terms of towers overall. It's not looking too good right now from GamingGear.eu. Pings down at bot lane. Neither jungle is close, however. I say that actually Ko was close. I'm talking about Lunarex, who's now moving his way down, but he has just walked on top of that ward as the second tower goes down from Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, and Super Hot Crew is really starting to just snowball ahead all over the board. They have the talent advantage, they have the kill advantage, and now Kha'Zix can roam even harder. However, Luna comes into the bot lane. He really needs to start evening out the playing field, because if they don't, they'll just start to lose more and more towers, more and more ground. As Sorella goes in with the Dominus, and they want to go for this fight.
They do. Coralius just land a tower shot for his troubles, but he's going to be able to get back. Ko's taking a lot of damage in return, but really nice timing actually on Fear there, just as the Dominus was popped and negating a couple seconds of that threat. 4 players at bot lane right now from GamingGear.eu, and it's going to soon be 3. Here comes Kotzq going face to face with Mazarin. Renekton from the side, remember the Dominus has already been popped off. Explosive cast comes through, Ko from the side, beautiful flash and the body slam as well. Ignite comes down, that is going to be a very dead Gragas any second now. There we go, and a blue buff transfers on Renekton.
Yeah, knowing who is dead, comebacks in with the body slam. Blades of Torment isn't enough to push Renekton back, but they're still looking to chase. Doesn't connect the Void Spikes. Hook comes over the wall and slightly whiffs onto the backside of Coralius.
That was close though, Paul. If that death sentence had landed, that could have been a very dead Fiddlesticks.
Yes, indeed, and, well, again, more advantages being picked up. They didn't pick up, well, they picked up the kill onto Mazarin. In fact, in the last fight, didn't quite pick up on it, but they were actually using themselves to body block the body slam as he tries to get over the wall. They forced the flash, and then they could follow it with their standard abilities. But in the mid lane, they can surely pick up this turret as Mixer just waits around the side, just as a deterrent for anyone else who wants to try and get out of here. As Mazarin finds himself get hit by the hook and the follow-up as well.
Mazarin's going to go down instantly from the shockwave. Beautiful mechanical play from Mixer, throwing out the lantern and then landing the hook. And Pulse, that could translate into another tower going down in mid. There's really nothing that Ex-GamingGear.eu can do about this.
Yeah, it's very, very awkward. They pick up one kill, and then they pick up another objective, and then they just get another pick. That was so well played by Mixer, though. I didn't even think they were going to pick up that kill, because yes, they managed to get the hook, but I thought that was just enough to delay and kind of pull him away from the turret. But Mixer's really being on point with these hooks, forces the Valkyrie out as well.
MBS Law going to be jumping in here with his Power Slam and also Thundering Blow, knocking away MBS Lol. Mixer's getting quite low as well, has no mana. Dark Flight and flashing from Lunar X. Oh, the Blades of Torment will miss and he will not get any of the slowing effects. They're actually going to have to back on away. Very close yet so far.
Yeah, and it has put GamingGear in a slightly better position when they should be able to go for the fight if they want it, meaning that at least they'll have to back off. Terrified comes in.
Oh, the explosive cask, absolutely brutal. And Oriana will go down for the first kill from GamingGear.eu at around the 11-minute mark. This is pretty brutal. Ko has found himself in a really precarious position. Deadly Brother firing away with the phosphorus bombs, going to give some vision and the Valkyrie as well just to get out of dodge, and Ko should be just fine.
Yeah, Void Assault has been popped. However, Mazarin is hooking around all the way from the backside. He's coming in with the body slams, doesn't have that much mana available to him. His ultimate is down, but he does have the body slam for a little bit of CC. Leak comes out. Will it be enough? In fact, Mazarin just backs up to farm.
Yeah, it's just so slippery to chase a Ko, especially, as you said, his ultimate was not available. Going to be cancelling these recalls. Scumbag Ko on Kha'Zix, and doing so, he's allowing the rest of his team to get round from the backside. Corki's going to be falling down through that barrier. Mazarin will go one better though, back onto him, and now Renekton coming, trying to force away this recall from Mazarin, who was stood on top of a ward, running away. Ace in the hole comes out from Caitlyn. Do they have enough damage? Mazarin does not have a great deal of mana, popping off that body slam. His flash is not available either, so he is a dead man walking right now. Just a question of who's going to pick up the kill. Body slam whiffs, going to be Oriana.
Yeah, and that's 2 kills in quick succession, and surely he should be able to transition into this dragon as well. Perfectly played by Ku. He made sure that they all chased him down. They got too greedy for those kills after picking up the first one in mid. Then they were too bloodthirsty. They followed Ku down. He just needed to disrupt them, and then he traded 1 for 1 onto the AD carry. That was enough so that they could either go for a fight or they sacrifice a member, which was Mazarin, and then they could translate that into another dragon.
Yes, indeed. They are going to pick up another dragon, so it's looking quite scary right now from GamingGear.eu, Pulse. This is 12.5 minutes through the game. Look at that goal difference. That's massive. That is colossal at this stage of the matchup.
It's true. Last game, though, we did see them come back into it. The goal differential wasn't that large. And this time, they also have a team fighting composition in the bot lane. MBS LOL trading off against Renekton.
Yeah, Renekton's going to do his best here. MBS LOL's not the strongest of Jaces, but he does have the CC to force Renekton back, and the range as well to keep him at bay. It was looking a bit scary from his perspective, though, for a few seconds.
Yeah, the bat away the Thundering Blow should be enough against most laners. Meanwhile, Ku looking for the second still, already picked up the red buff. Does he have the smite available to him? The answer is no, as Mazarin is still trying to pick this up. But if he clears if he clears the smaller lizard, he should be able to pick this up. Deadly, but that takes huge amounts of damage from Ku.
He does, but they should be fine. They're going to pull themselves back. Valkyrieing out will be Deadly Brother. As you said though, last game, Pulse, even though GamingGear.eu were a long way behind, the experience really came in, flashing in to stun away Fiddlestick. Meanwhile, actually, Corki has been killed from Oriana, soon to be followed by his supports. That duo lane have both fallen, and this time around, Super Hot Crew have learned from their mistakes, Pulse. They're going for the jugular. They want to finish this game quick.
Yeah, it was a quick couple of kills and this time they actually have the siege to follow where MBS LOL gets caught in the bot lane.
Oh, he should be going down. There we go. Kha'Zix will be picking up the pieces, and I have to give a call out to Mixer here, who had a great game 1 as well, even when his team lost. His Thresh play has been phenomenally strong. He's making plays left, right, and centre.
Yeah, you really can't ban him out. It's like, okay, you ban my turn, I'll just go fresh and make even more plays. It just doesn't matter what they really do. Honestly, they could just let him take whatever he wants. He's still going to do well, but he's been so on point, getting so many picks, and they really are a snowballing team. That's something we've learned from this new lineup of Super Hot Crew, that they get a kill, they go for the juggler, as you said, Messers, they go for those objectives, and then they push it on home. Right now, 11-2, huge goal differential, and 3 towers on top. Doesn't look like they're going to relent anytime soon.
And I mean, that's the objective of the game, isn't it? It's destroy the Nexus, it's get those objectives and kill the enemy Nexus. And the main difference that I can see from Super Hot Crew in this game compared to the last one, Pulse, I'm not sure if you'll agree with this, but they seem to have more purpose this time around. Last game they had a huge advantage in the early game, but they didn't really do anything with it. They didn't get objectives. This time around, a complete opposite.
Yeah, indeed, and last time they could get a kill, and then they really couldn't siege. Yes, they had extremely good potentials to take down the turret very quickly, take down an objective very quickly, but if someone was defending it, because they had such good wave play, in fact you can see the composition right before you right now, then they couldn't do anything against it. This time though, yes, they're forced to be on the defensive, but they still have amazing wave clear. It's just a matter of how hard can they turtle, and can they afford to turtle? Because as soon as you get to that stage where you're going into that mindset, you lose the control of your jungle, you lose the buffs, lose the dragon, lose the baron, and then you will eventually just be pushed in. So they need to make some sort of play, but I'm not even sure if they're strong enough, as Caitlyn takes another chunk out of MBS.
So you think that their game plan right now for Ex-GamingGear.eu is pretty much turtle in and survive another 10-15 minutes until they have items then?
It's turtle in, and also at the same time try and get a pick and try and go for a team fight. It's do everything that they can't do as a pause comes in.
Oh, wonderful. Another pause. We will inform you as soon as we know what the reason for this pause is. We've been told sec from the team of Super Hot Crew, because it was them that actually paused this game out. So while we keep an eye on this, we'll be answering some more questions in the chat. But while we wait for those questions to come through, Pulse, 26.1 to 18.1k difference between these two. That's pretty brutal if you're an Ex-GamingGear.eu fan. I mean, that makes hard reading. That's 8,000 difference at 16 minutes through the game.
Yeah, it's a lot of gold, and it's a lot of momentum that's been built up by Super Hot Crew. I generally don't think that Gaming Gear is really feeling this game. They haven't been making those outstanding plays that we saw in the first game. They haven't really been going for those fights, those roaming plays, and those counter-engages. They just seem like they don't really want to play this game and just want to go into the next one where they have a better start and they can kind of play on the more even playing field.
Oh, the Pro Storm's coming through, and the Dark Fight as well, so they're making some place in the Renekton as the top lane. Heidel instantly goes down. It's going to be Fiddlesticks picking up that kill, but this is the experience in a nutshell coming through from the side of Ex-GamingGear.eu, and this is pretty much hitting the nail on the head from what you said, Pulse. They turtled in and waited for the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, everything I just said was completely wrong, because they just proved me wrong in the next couple of seconds. I should just carry on talking and I correct myself, but either way, Gaming Gear gonna barrel down the mid lane, and there's very little they can do. They have great picking potential in their own right, as Renekton tries to come in to try and save the turret, but they're gonna be very careful. One good knockback in the right direction, one good Terrify could spell the end for any one of these players.
So, Dragon is up in 1 minute 25, so therefore, and I think half of Ex-GamingGear.eu were actually going out to have a quick look. Because they've been on the back foot for so long, they just simply didn't have Dragon Timer, so they're not too sure when this is going to be coming out. They've probably got a general idea, but they're going to have to back on away, because those two players have now respawned, and even with those kills, Pulse, they still do find themselves at quite a deficit in terms of gold.
Yeah, yes indeed, and Mixer, again, looking for these hooks to happen, but with the strong advantage still definitely in the court of Super Hot Crew, they're just going to keep going into the mid lane as Koo jumps in very aggressively. And this is a mark of a good team. This is a very good shot call. It's like, we just lost a team fight, yes, but they've blown their cooldowns, and we probably can still beat them in the team fight if we just don't get caught, or we don't let them fight in their own terms, or we just play it safe and have people split push in all the different lanes.
Yeah, and we've got a bit of a lull in the action, Pulse. I'm actually going to throw a question to you that I saw in the chat a couple of times, and the question was, what are your thoughts about Heidel as an AD carry? So, do you have any thoughts on him? Like, anything specific that's jumping out at you over the span of these two games?
Over these last two games, he's just been a very solid AD carry. He's just kind of followed the team, hasn't done anything majorly significant, but at the same time, hasn't let himself fall behind, as we see some potential action heading up from the top lane, so I will cut myself off in a second. And in the bot lane, Renekton trading off with a Lunir. I didn't want to get into any deep theater crafting here methods just in case a team fight kicks off, because it could happen at any second with both the strong team initiations.
It's like suddenly both teams just wanted blood, and this top tower is very low. Just 414 hit points remaining, 8 players congregating around this area, with the remaining 2 at bot lane. So it's really going to come down to, do Ex-GamingGear.eu see a potential pick, like they did previously on their inhib tower in mid? Aatrox is recalling, so Renekton's going to try and force the bot lane, but it's on a knife edge right now. You just feel that if enough poke goes down from the likes of Mazarin, Deadly Brother, and also NBS, they could go in. And actually, they forced back Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, it was getting to the stage where they realised, well, the tower still has enough HP where if we go to a team fight, we're still going to have to commit someone to take it down. But we can't make that happen. In the 4 versus 4, they can still definitely take us out. And especially with a Gragas barrel in the wrong place, it could spell the end of all of the players as they try and seize this one out. But still, with Q and CosQ in the top lane, Coryllis is in that bush concealed, so we'll see if they can collapse onto them.
No, he's ultimating him with the Coast Storm, and again Oriana's going to be caught out of position. Almost a carbon copy of what happened in mid. They get their pick, and now there's very little that Super Hot Crew can do about this. Meanwhile, Aatrox is actually going toe-to-toe with Renekton. We'll be forcing him away. Dragon's up though, Pulse.
Yeah, and Aatrox has enough anti-siege to make sure that Renekton can never really push in the turret. It means they have to commit someone there, but Aatrox isn't that valuable to their team fight regardless. Now they move on to the Dragon, they probably still can't fight this. Had they all grouped up and mobilized for it, they could have countered Dragon. They couldn't have countered Baron, but they could have countered Dragons and left someone to deal with Ku, because they did have that 1 kill advantage. Either way, another advantage picked up, and that's just down to great mobility and also the strength of their vision control at the moment, because it's really been choked from Gaming Gear.
It is, and a lot of that is down to the fact they've lost quite a lot of towers. They've lost 4. Both of their mid towers are gone. Top lane, Jace is trying to make some plays right now. Ku is going to be using his ultimate and jumping away. Ultimate again, he is juking left, right and centre. I don't think it's going to be enough though. That barrel will be missing, but the body slam, oh so strong. A nice effort from Ku, not quite enough.
Yeah, I feel like Super Hot Crew needs to stop doing their kind of pick game, their roaming game. This is very reminiscent of what we saw in the first game, but their composition isn't necessarily built around it. Yes, they can go for picks, yes, they can definitely do that if that's their given playstyle, but being so far ahead, they can't afford to let it slip, because Gaming Gear will take every advantage you give them. If you make one slip, they will pick one person off, then go for a team fight, and then suddenly you've been aced. They go for Baron and they take your base. So they can't afford to slip up. I would like to see Super Hot Crew start to group up and just either siege with Caitlyn, because they have a very good sieging team, or just kind of move as a clump, move as a unit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite difficult though, because, you know, we said at 15 minutes on the dot, what can GamingGear.eu do about this? Turtle in for the next 10 to 15 minutes. They've managed to survive 6 minutes without losing any more objectives in terms of towers. Yes, they've lost a dragon, but that's not going to really bother them that much. And they're starting to get some items on key players as well, Paul. So going into that next 5-10 minute period, if they can get Mazarin a bit beefier, if they can get Corki doing a bit more damage alongside the Jace, they have every chance at pulling back these team fights. Because in game number 1, I have to say, their team fight was just much smoother than Super Hot Crew's.
Yeah, they just need to hit these item spikes or just pick up a kill on Q. That also works. Mixer lands the hook onto Coryllis though.
Yes, and a death sentence alongside the box as well, as Oriana will be picking up that kill. So for all the stuff we've just been saying, they've been caught out of position. NBS Law is going to go down from Renekton, and now they're setting their sights on Deadly Brother, who will be Valkyrying over the wall, chasing after a Lunar Axe and Mazarin as well. So 2-for-0 trade overall, but they're also pushing back the mid and jungler away from their own base. Death sentence again. Deadly Brother is going to be going down from the side, and a beautiful shockwave will be landing. Lunar Axe is very tanky, but he will be falling to Hydal. You have to feel flashing away red buff will consistently slow him down. Bloodwell will be popped, and as soon as he pops out of that one, Hydal will be there to pick up the pieces. In fact, could be going on to Mixer P2, who flays him backwards, finally get their man.
Yeah, last man standing will be Mazarin, but it was such a good play coming in from Super Hot Crew. They went for the initial pick, and then they cut them off by looping through the jungle and pushing them away from their turret, cutting off that escape route, meaning that they all have to split to try and get them away from each other, but they had enough chasing potential to get everyone they wanted. Yes, Gragas got out, yes, he has a little bit of wave clear, but they took massive advantages as a result of that fight.
They certainly did, but in terms of getting objectives, Pulse, again, they've not been able to pick any up. So they did get a few kills, no objectives, no more towers have fallen. So again, it's like GamingGear.eu respawn, and they're pretty much in an identical position to where they were before. The only downside is that now that Mixer Pizza, I say Mixer Pizza because that used to be his name, has the oracles, he's just going to be going around and clearing all that vision away from Baron. And at some point, GamingGear are going to be very scared that Baron will be going down.
Yeah, they've demonstrated that they can beat them in a 5-on-5, but it's not necessarily been on the 5-on-5 that GamingGear has wanted. If they go for a 5-on-5 fight, I'm sure they can come back into it, but Carlos, if he gets instantly bursted, that's not going to help the cause.
It certainly isn't. And now Ko has his eyes set on LunarX, and Ko's doing a lot of damage now. Last Whisper and Brutalize, that's going to be cutting through, shredding through. Remember that Bloodwell was popped in the previous fight, so LunarX is super vulnerable right now. Deadly Brother Valkyrieing away back to Sanctuary of his own team, but Australia is lurking round the shadows all by his lonesome. On the backside, NBS LOL doesn't want to chase too far. If a Death Sentence lands, could be the end of his life. Death Sentence will not be landing, and NBS LOL should be just fine.
Yep, again, just choking the vision from them, making sure that they do go for a Baron play, or they do make some sort of objective play, make it very difficult for GamingGear to react. Mid-tower siege looks like the right idea.
Certainly does, but again, this wave clear that's coming in from GamingGear.eu is pretty darn strong. Just one barrel and a couple of auto attacks from MBS LOL, and the creep wave pretty much disintegrates, and I feel this could very well keep them in the game for a bit longer, which is reminiscent for me, Pulse, from the likes of Season 1, Season 2, where CLG.EU, who are now known as Evil Geniuses, ran a lot of Anivia on Froggen, and they could just stall games for so long because of the wave clear.
Yeah, indeed, Messes, and the hook, once again, speculative, doesn't quite hit or find its mark, but any second they go for the fight, and now with a dominance.
Australia is going to be taking point right now. LunarX from the side still has no Bloodwell. Instantly, Crowstorm firing back in, but Carlius is just so squishy. Shockwave lands on both himself and MBS LOL. Explosive cast coming on through, nowhere near enough damage. Ace Null as well from Caitlyn. That's a 3-for-1 trade with just Ku the jungler falling from the perspective of Super Hot Crew. Now the AD carry is going man against man, but it doesn't look too good from Deadly Brother's perspective. He's picked up one, but here comes the encirclement, and finally will be taken down from Caitlyn.
Yeah, Hadar dropping incredibly low, but we'll get on out of there. Meanwhile, Shirella is still in good shape along with CosQ. Gragas, though, should be able to clear out these waves. We've got to be very careful. He has huge burst damage available to him. 40 seconds left on his ultimate. They can't really afford to hang around. This might be the chance for a counter Baron if they do so.
It could very well be. Let's have a quick look at some of the items then, Pulse, because players are recalling all across the map. So, yes, Mazarin has managed to get the Rabadon's death cap, but when you look at the tank ability on the opposite side, he's not going to have that same burst potential as game number 1, when we saw him just crushing through 3 players. It's not looking too good for them.
Yeah, I would say that they can still win teamfights, but they're always getting caught in a bad position. Last teamfight was initiated by a pick, the one before was initiated by a pick. They're never quite able to go for their own fight, but Ku trading off with Mazarin. Mazarin is good shape, but now he's out of mana, being with the blue buff taken away from him.
But he does have the cavalry coming in the form of Deadly Brother. Ace Null came through, and Mazarin will be pulling on back. However, did not get the blue buff for himself, so going to be kind of miffed about that one, I have to feel.
Yeah. So I still feel if GamingGear go for the initiation, I keep saying this and I've said it for the last like 10 minutes, that if they get it on the right terms, we've seen it at their towers, Zesto kind of more picks than team fights, but if they can chain the pick into a team fight, they can definitely make it happen. Fiddlesticks is a great character for doing so, Gragas Baron in the right place, along with a knockup from Aatrox, these are all great tools for getting those plays in place, but you have to query how far behind they are right now. In the period of the last 10 minutes, so many kills have gone down. They're 12 kills behind, 3 towers behind, so the opportunities in which they can go for these fights have been massively reduced. We'll see what they can do, as they're still clinging on, and the fact that these team fights are being won by Super Hot Crew but not strong enough signals that GamingGear are still in this game.
Well, they certainly are, and we've seen their possibilities of bringing this one back. However, if Carolus gets completely popped for free, that's not going to spell too good. Deadly Brothers taking so much damage from Ku, and the shockwave comes in, just landing on the AP carry of Mazarin. Mazarin completely crushes Heidal in the fray, and that's a 1-for-1 trade. And you know what, Pulse? That's not a bad trade at all for GamingGear.
Not at all, especially when they follow up the acceleration gate, and the pause comes in just as GamingGear start to build up the momentum. And it looks like some players are having some lag problems.
Well, yeah, Heidel saying he can't move, and that would maybe explain that previous death. I'm not sure if you caught it, Paul, but he was like standing at the front lines and just ate an explosive cast to the face, which kind of killed him very quickly. But let's take stock of what's happening then, because you just said before that, you know, they're going to be chasing him down with the acceleration gate. If you have a look at the differences between these two teams, it's completely feasible that GamingGear.eu could go all in here and try and make big plays, because the AD carry is down for Super Hot Crew, whereas just the support for Gaming Gear.
Yeah, take a look at this situation. Kiralis has dropped, AD carry for support, that's a pretty good trade. Deadly Brother is low, yes, but so is Kozku, so is Ku. They could either chase and get another pick. If they get a pick onto Kozku and Ku, they can 100% convert this into a Baron play. Do they have the vision to actually know that though? It's all well and good saying that from our perspective because we can see everything, but do they have the vision? They've been choked pretty hard. I don't think they actually have vision of Kozku and Mixer as they're retreating, and also Renekton they can probably see from Mazarin. So they'll probably follow through there. They might be able to loop around the side, but I feel they're too far back to get more than one pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Reading chat, and some people saying, like, why didn't they cast a spectate through friends list? That's because spectator mode was turned off in the lobby. There's nothing we can do about that, guys. We tried that about 1,000,000 times, trust me. It's down to the lobby. If they select that spectator mode is not available, then only the people in the spec slot in the lobby will be able to view the game. No one will be able to view through the friends list. That was the issue that we had in the first game, or at least the first make of this game. So just to clear a couple of things there, not entirely sure how long this pause is going to go on for. Heidel apparently is lagging. He has just told us he's ready, so fingers crossed Paul will be back into this very shortly.
Yes, indeed. So we should be ready to go as Lunia does so, and now we're looking for this next chase to continue.
Alrighty, so all those questions going to be answered. It's a really good point you made though, Pulse, with the lack of vision, and that's kind of reflected in how GamingGear.eu are pushing down mid. They're like, we don't know where they are in the jungle, we don't want to give them any free picks, so let's just go ahead and try and work where we know we're comfortable. They're pushing down mid, looking for Dragon again, however, they don't have the timing.
Yeah, they don't want to go for a team fight or face checker brush, especially when they could be hit in the face by a box and the follow-up, but yep, again, they wanted to convert that into some sort of an objective. Dragon would have been great had it been alive, but in fact they weren't able to do anything. They didn't get the pick, and they're just back to square one. They got the pick, but that's not going to be anything in the long run, and it looks like the counter Baron coming in. This is a risky play, but could definitely work.
It's risky, but again, there's no vision and an Oracle's on Mixer, so look at Deadly Brother's positioning. He's quite a while away right now. Got it down to half hit points, but they're not going to try and risk this one, and a smart play, Paul. So a lot of players would be, the red mist would descend, they'd be like, we want Baron, and then end up throwing the game.
Yeah, one of those classic solo queue plays, but these teams know better. We'll be backing off. At least they've put the pressure onto Baron, making sure that they know it's there and an option available to them. And Luna takes so much damage from Orianna, though.
Yeah, it is getting quite scary when Aluna, who's a pretty tanky champion, has a giant spell and a Warden's Mail, but it's building pretty much all armor. That's not going to help against Orianna, who has Rabadon's Death Cap and Void Staff. Like, that is just going to shred through you.
Yeah, she's going to shred most of that team, maybe apart from Gragas, but if they all get locked in that, and they have so many good opportunities to initiate, especially with Ku, with the increased range on the leap, especially with Shirella as well. A lot of ways to get into a fight, a lot of ways to land the perfect shockwave that we're really looking for. And now comes into the kind of Baron dance that we're all very used to. It's now just down to see who can get the pick, but we've been in this position so many times before metas, it's always been down to Super Hot Crew.
It definitely the case, but have a quick look at Gaming Gear. They are starting to maneuver around from the side, and I have to say Super Hot Crew are completely isolated from one another. You've got two players on the right, two players on the left, one at the top, and I feel if Gaming Gear had gone in full on there, they could have actually came out ahead. However, that's all easy from a casting viewpoint, as you said. We can see the vision on the board. They couldn't. They had no idea where the side of Super Hot Crew are. They still don't, which is why they're backing on off.
Yeah, if they had that vision, they might have just gone straight for the Baron. They were low enough where if they've turned around and went for a fight, then they probably would have come out ahead. But vision is king, and they didn't have it. Meanwhile, in their jungle, they just try and get some of that vision back, some of that control of the game. But it's not looking good. Let's take a look at some of the items and kind of the differentials we're seeing in some of these players. So right now, Corki has the 2-item AD carry build. Caitlyn has the same, more of a conventional AD carry build, which will scale up more towards the later parts of the game, which Caitlyn really has that kind of parabolic power curve, but Corki has the damage now, and that's really where he needs it. We're still firmly in the mid-game, so if they can make that happen, they'll be in good shape. Ku looking for another pick, but it's not going to be quite what they're looking for this time.
I think the main difference between the ADs, though, isn't necessarily their build, but it's the players they're surrounded by. If you look at Caitlyn, she has a much beefier, much stronger front lines than Corki does. We've seen already that Aluna is being popped instantly in team fights, whereas Renekton is just being a bully. Look at his stats, 3-0-10. He's got a Sunfire Cape and a Spirit Visage. That is a very tanky Crocodile. It's not easy to poke through him.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. If they get the kills into the right place, at the moment it's basically on their front lines, on their assassin as well, of Ku. So we're not necessarily looking at the AD carry of Hado at this very moment, but especially when we get into the latter parts of the game metas, you have to say that that beefy front line should be enough to keep everyone away from him, whereas Corki, yes, he has an escape of his own, so does Caitlyn, but if they do collapse onto him, if they land the hook in the right place, if they land the shockwave, he's going to be dead very quickly.
I think, as an AD carry myself, one of the problems that I have with playing Corki really late game, and I'm talking 50 plus minutes, when everyone's on full items, is he is a short-ranged AD carry. So when you're in those big 5v5 fights, and I'm keeping an eye here on the Wolves going down, and the Wraiths going down, I should say. When you're in those 5v5 fights, Caitlyn's going to come out much higher because she has longer range, because she has better frontline right now as well. So as this game progresses on, it's all going to be down to that positioning and the execution. Going back to that key word that we've mentioned a couple of times already in this game, Pulse, the execution of how Deadly Brother positions himself in those team fights. Because although Mazarin's been playing really well these previous two games, he can't carry it all himself. Someone has to share that burden with him.
Yeah, Mazarin 5-3-3. He's in really good shape. He's got 3 items as an AP carry and plus the Sork Boot. So he has the damage. Even if he lands it on full 5 people though, it's not going to be enough. And I completely agree, Metas. Do they have the damage to follow up? Even if he lands the perfect ultimate, but they poked him down beforehand, they'll be in good shape. Renekton looking for the initiate.
He is. He's going to be terrified instantly. Explosive Cask again doing so much damage to Heidel, forcing him away, and that will stop the chase down afterwards. And that's the real strength of Mazarin, Pulse. He's always landing those pixel-perfect explosive casks.
It's true, but at the same time, he's being forced into a utility role, and he needs to start saving these casks for a big team fight. Had Super Hot Crew been in better shape, had they not taken so much damage onto the support and kind of evened it out, they could have gone for an initiation, and that's a huge amount of damage to lose. It's like using a shockwave as a counter initiation ability. That's not what you necessarily want, whereas if you had a Zyra on your team, then okay, Strangleforce comes up, that's the support ability. Yes, it would be nice in the team fight, but it's not going to be the be end and end all. Mazarin's ultimate though, you really need that.
You certainly do, and this is the first time that we've really seen GamingGear.eu actively push this dragon. Is it going to prove to be their downfall though? Ku jumping in, explosive cask again. This time Konski will be landing that one on the face. Lunarex is trying to bait away the rest of the team. That's going to be Deadly Brother falling though, and the Crowstorm as well, shutting down the player of Orianna. This is a 2-for-1 trade though. They do have the dragon, so if it stays at this point, it's not going to be too bad, but they do lose that third player, looking like it's going to be the fourth as well, as Heidel is constantly barraging down Jace. Pick up that kill, 4-for-1 trade. Dragon's simply not worth it. They're going to lose another player, and that's going to be the ace plus the tower, maybe even 2 towers actually.
Yeah, 5-for-1 ace on. They didn't pick up the dragon, but that was it was a risky play, but it's kind of the play that they have to make at this stage. Another 20 seconds left. They can probably pick up the inhibitor off the back of this as well, Messes. It's just not looking good, and we saw Luna actually zone 3 people in the Dragon Pit, and it wasn't enough. It was basically just people going 1 versus 2 from the team of Super Hot Crew, and still coming out ahead.
Yeah, it almost seemed like me that they had the game plan of, let's take Dragon, but they didn't really think through what was going to happen after that, Pulse, because they got the Dragon, and then everyone just kind of split off and did their own thing.
Yeah, it wasn't like, we'll go for Dragon, but we have to be prepared if they initiate onto us, and then we counter-initiate, and then they kind of premeditate that. It was like, we pick Dragon, oh god, they're here, scatter and run, and then everyone died. They didn't really seem to be thinking these plays through. It always feels like they've really been demoralized from this game, especially after that shaky start.
Yeah, and I'm always interested in psychological effects on gamers, because I think it's such a big part of League of Legends. It's momentum, it's morale, and after having to remake, in fact, hold on, I thought, because Ku is going so deep in a 1 versus 4, now 1 versus 5 situation on Deadly Brother, he's forced to flash away, and he should be just fine with leap back off cooldown. There we go. He'll be escaping, but my oh my was that ballsy play. As I was going to say, actually Ace in the hole now coming out. Deadly Brother's been caught. It's suddenly just turned into the strangest game of League of Legends ever. There's just these mini engages kicking off, Crowstorm going through from Fiddlesticks. They pick up the Orianna, and suddenly Super Hot Crew are not looking too strong right now. They do get the return kill, however. Heidal is very scary. Ku jumping back in, MBS low will be falling down, and now all three players very low. Can he get the resets? He's been terrified again. The shutdown from Deadly Brother on Kha'Zix. Flashes aplenty, and they do just about escape. Heidal coming in will pick up the pieces on Fiddlesticks.
Yeah, 3 for 2, not the worst that could have happened, but again, not the best that could have happened. Inhibitor down, another Inhibitor tower falling. We've got Deadly Brother and Lunir to come in and try and counter-initiate here. Heidal is still in good shape. He's going to try and poke down this Inhibitor, but Deadly Brother does have a lot of damage in return. It's down to whether Mixer can land that perfect hook. Oh, Deadly Brother could walk into a trap and he could lead in from that, but they're really getting poked down here. Lunir looks in for the kill.
He does, but in terms, he's actually going to get taken out from Renekton. Deadly Brother's pretty scary from the backside. Does he have enough damage for Heidal? No, he doesn't. Valkyrieing away into his death mid-flight. And that's going to be Aatrox and the AD carry dead for 50 seconds. It's really just down to how Super Hot Crew want to push this one back. Do they want to go for a Baron? Are they going to recall and just come back stronger? Looks like the latter of those options.
Yeah, 3 characters low, they want to just back off, get some items, come back into it, and there's almost nothing that Gaming Gear can do if they make a Baron play. Mixer just going around, he's just preparing for it. He doesn't need to be on high HP to start clearing out these wards. He's done enough, he'll head back to base, and they'll start congregating around that area. Deadly Brother's still down for another 20 seconds. They could all go onto it, or they could just collapse on the top lane. So many options available to them.
I just want to draw the attention to those stats on Renekton. Renekton is a backline diving champion that just goes really ham and wants to kill AD carries and AP carries. He's yet to die thus far, Pulse. The only player on the server with those credentials in his back pocket. 6-0-14. That's impressive play.
It is indeed, and that's something that these AD carries and AP carries have to contend with. Maybe not so much Mazarin, but definitely Deadly Brother as he tries to keep himself alive. And Shirella, again, looks for another pick onto Crealis. He could be called out, but Dominus comes down. He's so tanky.
He is so huge right now, and he has the cavalry coming in. That's a pixel-perfect Fox from Mixer, completely isolating 2 halves of the enemy team, and they're going to divide and conquer right now. Mazarin running away will be falling to Kha'Zix. A 4-for-1 trade, again with just Ku falling down. 13, 5, and 10. He has been phenomenal as well, and the surrender vote comes in. So we are going to have that third game coming about, Pulse.
Yeah, and the third and final game, seeing which team can come back into it. First game went kind of heavily into the favour of Gaming Gear after a shaky start. This time, it didn't quite work out for them in the early game. Maybe it's just a matter of them needing to have the better early game before they go into the rest of the game. But either way, we'll be going into the third and final game very shortly.